Before I continue with the Google Doc, hopefully this is loud enough. My last video was pretty freaking quiet. Before I continue with that, I want to take a look at this comment section right quick. Um, so he says, I rewatched Alex's video, and at 7:14, he says he's pointing out that Chaos lied because it's a lie. He really misunderstands it. Chaos just misunderstands it. It's not an actual lie, but it's a lie. He says, sure, let me give it a go. Instead of just addressing what the guy says, he says, sure, let me give it a go, and then, kind of distracts with all this other crap, but we'll get into it. So, I'll first add that the claim you can't control the objects of your desires depends on his later claim that every time we change, it doesn't depend. They aren't like claims, I guess you could see them that way, but there's no reason to write this, in my opinion. He's coming at it wrong. So, for example, if you choose to walk instead of taking the bus, you do so because you're controlled by a deeper desire. That makes sense. That holds up. That is a good example, but you should have probably said what that desire was. Maybe you want to get some more steps in because your job is a sit-down job. So the choice to walk or take the bus is the sort of superficial but not free level of control both grant. So that's not a level of control. Having the choice to walk, take the bus or take this, he's saying that if you take one choice, it's because of a desire you had. That doesn't mean that you have a level of control over the choice, but you have the choice and you did it because of a stronger want. There is no level of control. By granting it, you're begging the question because he doesn't grant it at all. He's not. That's not what he's doing. You misunderstand. Alex states, so whenever you don't want to do something but do it anyway, it's only, we said that already. He then claims that this means we cannot be free since we can never choose to desire. Now, he's being very wordy because he has no clue what he's saying. But so what he means to say is he then claims that this means we cannot free since we can never choose what we want. But because by doing this, we are following the will. He needs to stop doing this weird stuff where he says, the will. He's injecting will into a determinist. You're making it so confusing by having all these weird. You're confusing yourself, is what I'm saying. I can get it because I'm sitting here and reading it. And I take the time, but you're confusing your own self. It's riddled throughout your entire video. Stop doing that. I'm not it's going to help you. It will help you if you stop doing that weird stuff. We are following the will of an exit. We're just acting in accordance with what we want, and there is no. He can just eliminate that. Since we cannot have an infinite chain of desires, which is true, there is no infinite chain. Our actions. This doesn't follow. Our actions must be taken in accordance to one or more highest desires that govern all of our actions. So, let's right now, in order to for this guy's view, if you want to agree with this guy, it has to make sense to you that people choose to suffer just to suffer, have one highest desire that governs all or most. I mean, think about that. Even if it's not literally all, and it's not all, he says all or most. It ain't all, that's for sure. But we might say most, and it's not even close to most. I mean, think about it yourself. One highest desire, and I mean, all he does is say suffer or pleasure, and pleasure would make sense. Pleasure could hold up, as I've said, and we'll get into it more thoroughly later. Pleasure, you can say that. Again, it doesn't make sense for him to infer that that's what Alex thinks and then disagree with it because he agrees with the exact same thing, that you only do what it is that you want. But if you think that there's a highest desire and that there's a binary choice between the highest desire. I mean, really, you always just, things are much more complex than just, should I act in accordance with my will to, lose weight? That means not eating McDonald's. And think about it. If there's a binary choice, when I was losing weight, and I need to lose more, but when I was losing weight, I would, sometimes I would not want to eat, of course, if somebody's having pizza or something, you're having you say there's a binary choice. I can either choose to suffer or either choose to pleasure. What if I eat one slice of pizza? What am I doing there? I'm still eating pizza, but so it's pleasure, but I'm kind of choosing not to suffer. So first off, the two can merge. Suffering and pleasure can merge. And not only that, but I think that there are other desires that aren't just like, and I mean, yeah, of course you can put everything into the categories of suffering and pleasure, but again, everything goes into those categories, as we just said. What other highest desires, and we'll get into this later, but what other highest desires are there whenever you only list those two, and then everything that could be considered a highest desire can be put into those categories? Um, since we cannot have a chain of infinite desires, our chains must be in accordance to one. You can believe that if you want. It's not true. Desires that govern all of our actions, at least at a given time. Okay, so no, this is false. Now, it is true if you want to say like, pleasure, pursuing suffering, that makes sense. But you were like, I don't agree that all humans act in accordance with just what maximizing their pleasure. I guess what he means by that, and what he's going to reinterpret himself to have meant by that, because he don't mean this, is that like, he was dismissing Alex's argument outright, but I guess now he can be like, well, we might maximize our pleasure at some points in life, and then stop maximizing our pleasure the next week or whatever. Then we might start maximizing suffering. Suffer max. It makes no sense. It never happens. That never happens. And if it does, it barely happens. Since we cannot have an infinite chain of desires, again, I keep reading this over. It must be in accordance to one. That's not true. Desire, it doesn't, also, not only is it not true realistically, it doesn't logically follow that just because there's not an infinite number of them that don't keep going and going, that there must be eventually a highest one. No, it doesn't have to look like a ladder. It can look like a tree. That's how and that makes a lot of sense. You can got all kind of stuff going over here. Sometimes these desires aren't as prevalent in your, psyche or whatever. Each of these desires has an opposite. We may choose pleasure, and this is where it starts getting infinitely confusing. If free will existed, then we would. So each of these desires has an opposite. Each of these two, suffering and pleasure, those are the only two desires, has an opposite, and then each other are the opposite. He's not laying out his argument very well at all. You have two only desires, and you say each of these desires has an opposite. Well, they're each other. They're literally each other. If free will existed, then we would have a free choice between these two binaries. So maybe he can, obviously that can make sense. You can say you have two desires, two highest desires, or multiple highest desires, and then the different highest desires are going to be opposites of each other. But he never explains that. You have to infer that, even just that very basic, that is the, what am I trying to look for? What word? Not bottom of the barrel, but bare minimum. That's what I'm comparing. It's the bare freaking minimum, and we have to infer it. Now listen to how this sounds. First off, if free will existed, then we would have a free choice between these two binaries. And each choice to pursue suffering is done for the reason that we desire suffering. This part does not explain that part. This part does not at all explain that part, even though that's grammatically what it's supposed to do. You would say, if free will existed, we would have a free choice between these two binaries. We could either choose to suffer, even though we wanted to feel pleasure, or choose to pleasure, even though we wanted to suffer. That's what he should have laid out. Any choice to pursue suffering is done for the reason that we desire suffering. Again, this is totally different than the first part of the sentence. Now he's saying any choice to pursue, he's making a claim here. Any choice to pursue suffering is done for the reason that we desire suffering, rather than a higher desire. He just says this, right? His argument literally, it's so hard to even understand what he thinks the argument is. Obviously, it's kind of there, but I'm struggling to find the words to even address this. Any choice to pursue suffering, like, is done for the. This is just him saying, like, it's incredible. I don't even know. I literally don't even know how to address this. He's just laying out this is what it would look like. Ignore that it's not realistic. Like, that is begging the question. He's assuming that, like, well, Alex thinks we all maximize pleasure. So look, this person's suffering just to suffer. There's no reason for him doing it. Therefore, free. It he is. It's begging the question in the highest degree. I've literally no clue how to even address this. I'd have an easier time talking to Jordan Peterson than this guy, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. We have already stated that actions have come down to suffering, or so now he's saying that there are only two. We haven't stated that. Haven't stated that in the whole last video. But now he's saying that there are only two highest desires. If all actions come down to these two. And I said earlier, myself, I said, yeah, they can all be put in that category. But that's not in his video. He makes it pretty clear that he thinks that there are more than those. As this is what we have put a placeholder. Oh, he's like, see, this is where he muddies it so much. This is what, no, stop putting placeholders and saying, well, even though this makes absolutely no sense, it's just a placeholder and I have other stuff to say too. No, you don't. This is not just a little placeholder. Be specific. What do you mean by any of this crap? Like, genuinely. For the highest desire, that must exist. Explain to me what he means by that. We've already stated that all actions have come all actions have come down to this because we put the placeholder there, because highest desire must exist. None of it, I don't know why I'm going to stop talking to this guy, and if you engage with me, I'm not answering you. I have more respect for, again, Jordan Peterson than you do, and that's not a good thing. You are trying your hardest to come across as smart. I am not. I'll tell you first, I'm stupid. Okay, I go to community college. Not saying that people that go to community college are dumb, but that's my life. I'm not a genius. This guy is bottom of the barrel. I don't care how mean that is. Like, I don't mean that in a mean way. No. I'm not sure. The guy is a great dude. He's very respectful. You can tell, but I don't have respect for channels like this, like, Deepak Chopra, or however you pronounce the dude's name. Channels like that, I'd have no respect for it. And this is bad. Like, this is just horrible. Yeah, if free will existed, we'd have a free choice between these two binaries. Assuming that there are two binaries, if free will existed, yeah, we'd have a free choice between these two. A choice to pursue suffering would be done for the reason that we desire suffering, rather than another desire. If you had free will, yeah, you could just choose to suffer just to suffer. If you had free will. Now prove that happens. Now prove that makes any sense. We have already stated, we actually no, but we'll let that happen. So everything comes down to suffering or pleasure, and if we had free will, we'd be able to choose which one. And then he just restates it. If we betraying our highest desire would be an action where the will creates the desire of the object, rather than our will following the object of our. Yep, I agree. If we could have acted differently, if there was a highest thing, there was one thing that we really, it was governing every action that we took, and we could recognize what that one thing is, and if for literally no other reason than just to do it, if we could then change that belief or that desire or goal or whatever that is freely, we'd have free will. I agree. That's begging 5 to 6 is not begging the question. Why is it not begging the question? Because you're just telling us what it would look like. 5 to 6 becomes begging the question when you put it in a YouTube comment section and you think that, and you try to put it as like, this is my entire argument. This is what proves that Alex's argument is flawed. That is when it becomes begging the question, because you just said, you laid out a whole laundry list of assumptions that make no sense, and then you didn't bother to even explain why it makes sense or how it's possible. And again, maybe a discussion in neurology is required for this. Maybe that is what it will come down to. But for now, this makes absolutely no sense. This right here, let me tell you what, I had to look this up. There's no reason for that to be here. This right here is only in there so that you can go, Wow, he knows what a reductive ad absurdum is. The only reason. I'll tell you right now, I had to look this up. Um, and if you probably know, if you're watching this at this point, you're probably really into this sort of stuff. Who's going to listen to this? So you probably know what this is. But let me just say it. It's like, so Alex's argument was, a big portion of it was he was arguing for determinism by debunking or showing how free will didn't hold up. That's what a reducto is. It's like arguing for yours by debunking another one, kind of like that. And so 5 to 6. So my argument is not circular reasoning. And then he begins the next sentence by saying, Alex's argument was debunking free will. It makes no sense. There's absolutely no reason for that to be here. He shows that free will is contradictory because any standard choice, chocolate instead of vanilla, is just following the desire. I mean, like, stop putting that there, dude. Stop putting that there. Let me reword this for you. He shows that free will is. He shows that free will is not realistic, does not hold up in the real world, because anytime we take an action, anytime we think we choke, I mean, stop saying choice. Just the word choice already has a bunch of loaded assumptions in it. Stop saying that. You're going to make it way easier for yourself. He shows that any action we carry out cannot be free because we are always following, and we're always acting in accordance with our desires. And you don't need to add that. You can say that. And Alex might himself think that. Stop complicating things. If free will existed, we could replace our desire for pleasure with the desire for pain without this cost. Without what cost? I wonder, like, the cost of not following I don't even know what he means, because if you don't follow your sugar tooth, that would be the cost. If free will existed, we could replace our desire for pleasure. Yeah, and if free will existed, we could replace our desire with. Notice how he keeps saying it this way, because he wants you to go like, oh yeah, I know times in my mind where some people, like, they chose to suffer, or I chose to suffer, and it didn't even make any sense why I was doing it. I mean, I'm guessing maybe people aren't that retarded. That's a bad word. I shouldn't say that word, especially on YouTube. I don't actually mean that. It's very. I didn't even know what the word retarded meant until I was like 16 years old. Genuinely, people just used it. Maybe I don't know. It was a long time, and it was long in life. I don't. So now I feel real bad when I say that. I do not. I want to be that clear. It's a big part of my ethics, actually. I don't mean that in a bad way. I kind of am very embarrassed about that, but we're probably like 30 minutes in. About 20 minutes in. So I'm not going to stop it. But yeah, I genuinely, I want to make that clear. And if you are someone that people use that word against, I do apologize. I don't mean it bad. I don't. But I doubt. I mean, this is a grand total of one viewer, me, watching this. So, yeah, I mean, I can pause, but this is retarded. I need to probably focus a little bit more on this right here, and how this part, maybe I haven't fully expressed how stupid it is, because it is bad, but there was some bad stuff in here too. Let me pause and read right quick, because it was yesterday when I made this, and it was getting late at night and I had to stop, so I kind of forgot everything I was going to say. Let me stop. I really want to. I'm gonna pause this. I'm not gonna say this. Ain't nobody watching. This guy is saying what I was saying in my Google document right here. We've stated that all actions come down to, and then he said, actually, as you agree with Alex in your video, all actions come down to wanting or being forced to do. This is kind of that thing where Chaos inferred that Alex is talking about maximizing our pleasure when he actually never said that. Dr. Pancake, he definitely hasn't. I'm not saying he's stupid. This guy's probably far smarter than me. I'm just meaning that, like, I've spent like weeks on this, literally looking at this for weeks now, and I kind of understand why Chaos, why he's saying that. Um, but yeah, that's not. It makes sense. I'm not going to call Chaos again. Like, I'm trying my hardest, and it's a good thing that I'm trying my hardest to make the best representation of his argument, because I can just start peeling the layers. I mean, we can give him this, and this is all still wrong, and we can give him that, and then this is wrong, and it's horrible. It's bad. This is the worst video I've ever seen. This is an important distinction, because you say any choice to pursue suffering is done for the reason that we desire suffering. If you choose rather than a higher desire, then this kind of, if you choose to pursue suffering, and people, if you choose, like I don't know if I've explained this yet, but it is in my Google Doc. I will get to it. People that choose to suffer, it's like, and Chaos actually says it in his video. He says, like, if they're wanting to maximize their pleasure, and then they choose to suffer, they're wishing for choosing to suffer is to feel pleasure, or something like that. Maybe it wasn't literally. I think that's what it was. Choosing to suffer is to feel pleasure. I think that's what he said, but I might be wrong. I think you might be mixing up Alec's vids on free will, on morality, or veganism, because there's further nuance the way he talks regarding pleasure and suffering. Yeah, see, I have seen his videos on both of these, but I don't really know exactly what he means. But okay, so I'm not claiming suffering is the highest desire, because this makes absolutely no sense. He needs to clarify what he means now. As he's saying, I'm not actually saying that in my view suffering is a desire based on what Alex has said, or I'm not claiming that what Alex thinks is suffering, or that Alex thinks suffering is the high. Like, this right here, I have no clue what it even means. Maybe you do. Like, dude, why can't you just, I don't know, maybe if English better not be your first language, dude. And if it's not, I do apologize for criticizing, because I know that's hard, and that is a major achievement if it's a second language. But if it's not, don't respond to this. Like, but it was a good example to use in the video. No, it wasn't a good example. In the video, I claim that a highest desire must exist. What this highest desire actually is unknown, but this doesn't matter. It's okay. That's a big addition. If you rewind the video, I mean, I had to say that. I mean, if you're consciously having this binary choice between, do I want to have my highest desire or go against my highest desire, which is also apparently the same thing as changing to a new highest desire. If you have this thought, that's what free will is. You have. Also, he says, like, free will entails something. Free will entails conscious thought. Okay, that's what it actually entails. It makes no sense what he says later, but if you have free will, you have to be thinking about it. Period. So what are you talking about? The highest desire actually is unknown. And yeah, that matters. If you choose to pursue suffering, that is your highest desire by definition. A desire which... What the... Really? Okay. No. We'll take this first part. If you choose to pursue suffering, but because of the way he set up highest desire, we can say that is your highest desire, because that's how... This is his thing. Okay. Someone that... If you choose to pursue anything, then that's your highest desire. Got it. Because that's what he says, by definition. And then he says, I guess the definition, if the highest desire is a desire which you have no control over. It's incredible. I'm not going to say anything there. If you don't understand, I'm wasting my time. I really feel no one's going to watch this. The problem is, Alex claims that making this choice would require following a desire. But this choice could simply be free desire itself. Hold on. The problem is, Alex claims making this choice would require following a desire. Okay, I see what he's saying. So he's saying that because Alex thinks that there's always another reason, but this is his actual argument. Let me give you his argument. Alex says that there's always a reason behind our actions and always a want. But he says, well, we're not infinite beings, so there can't always be a want. You know, we can't just keep revoking. Well, see, this is the thing. He said, and this is what I went over in my doc. He went over actions, right? And then he never kept revoking and revoking and revoking and revoking. And if he did, then, and he did get to the, let's say he said it was maximizing our pleasure, because it's very probable, then there'd be no, we don't have to revoke that. It doesn't matter that we're not infinite beings. You can go brush yourself up on some evolutionary biology. You can go brush yourself up on some psychology and neurons and chemicals and stuff like that. And that would be your answer. Okay? If we get, and then we can argue from another way. I mean, just because it doesn't follow that because we're infinite beings, there's always a single highest desire. Stop thinking of it as a ladder. It's a tree. It's literally your brain. Think of your brain, all the neurons, and kind of looks like trees, tree branches. Think of those as connecting to all the cells or all your different desires and stuff. It's not an infinite number of them. Can you be aware of all of them? Are you? No, you're not. You're definitely not. He even understands that, but there are many that you can do something and not even know why. Okay? Right? He's saying if you're doing something, it's always for a reason. That does not mean that reason has to be for another reason, has to keep going. But this choice could simply be free desire itself. It doesn't have to be, it could simply be that. You keep saying that. You said it here, you said it here, you said it here. You say it constantly in your video, and you never give an argument. You always say, could it be the case? You're trying, so you want, I'm asking questions. I'm just showing how his argument is bad, and then I answer the question. Could it be the other way? It's pathetic. It is pathetic. Maybe what I'm doing here is pathetic too, but we're different levels of pathetic, okay? Free will entails, this is where he says it, free will entails desire. Obviously free will entails desire. It makes no sense. Determinism, Alex literally says his argument hinges on everything that you do, and obviously just saying the word desire is not even close to describing what I'm about to tell you, which is that everything you do is because of a want, because you want to do it. That doesn't just mean free will or determinism entails want. I don't just say determinism entails want. No, that's not how it goes.
Wait, now if that doesn't sound of interest.
Which one was it? Which one was it? Hold on, bro. I think I know what's going on. I'm gonna have to. Okay, this is crazy. 30-minute video just for the comment section, but it's good. And then after I do this, I will get to the next Google Doc. The problem is that Alex's free will entails desire. That means nothing, and it is wrong. Again, free will entails consciousness. Free will entails conscious deliberation, maybe, but it doesn't just entail desire. I think he wanted to say the word entail. And I think one of his tactics is to confuse people and make them go, huh? What did he mean? That must be pretty sophisticated, huh? Here, it's possible that free choice and desire are identical, or in other words, the free choice is the first moment of desire. But Alex claims desire comes before choice. Here, it is possible that free choice and desire are identical. Free choice is the first Okay, if you wanted to do that, if you want to do that thing, I guess that'd be soft determinism. Those are people that are in denial. I was one. I want to be one. Actually, it's fun. It's a fun position to have. Like, well, I wanted to do it anyway. So what should it matter? I'm free. Even though I can't control what it is I wanted to do it anyway. So it's the same thing. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, he changes his argument. I can see why you're a scared little rodent. Hiding, like I pick up your habitat and you start running behind the hay or something, and you can keep running behind from each defense barrier to the next. I'm going to keep picking them all up. Okay, so this is done. This comment section done. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever read in my entire life, and I'm being a piece of crap about it, but no one's going to watch this anyway, and I'm trying to keep myself entertained. So that's all I got for myself. See you later.